Gentlemen, welcome to this rainy seminar. We have a very rainy afternoon. This afternoon, we are very glad to have with us Dr. Anita Boling, who is an agrometeorologist, agricultural engineer, and crop ecologist by profession and a modeler by vocation. She is a postdoctoral fellow who is leading the team in developing the WeRise Nutrient Integrated Decision Support System, or WeRise, based on seasonal weather forecasts, crop growth, and nutrient management models. She is contributing to the Erie, Japan project on climate change adaptation for rain-fed rice areas in Southeast Asia. Dr. Boling analyzes the predictive ability of downscale seasonal weather forecasts and their effects on rice growth and yield formation using the ORIZA 2000 Eco-Physiological Model. She also collaborates with National Agricultural Research and Extension Systems in analyzing the farmers' risk management practices under the prevailing trends in planning. She disseminates research results and provides trainings on decision support system and simulation of crop growth in local and international training courses conducted at Erie or at NARA's counterparts. Dr. Boling holds a PhD in production ecology and resource conservation from Wageningen University in the Netherlands, a Master of Science in agrometeorology, minor in agronomy from UPLB, and a Bachelor of Science degree in agricultural engineering also from UPLB. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Anita Boling.
Thank you for the kind introduction. And let me thank the seminar committee of SEARCA ATSS for giving me the opportunity to address this audience and this topic. During the Erie Thursday seminar last week, Dr. Hayashi presented the first part of WeRise, a decision support tool for climate change adaptation in rainfed rice area. He gave the socioeconomics background of the study. Also, he introduced the three themes in the Erie, Japan project on climate change adaptation. He also gave the overview of the WeRise. Today, I will be presenting on trends in potential rice yields, yield constraints of rain-fed lowland rice, the methodological framework and implementation of WeRise, and the results of the prototype training, WeRise prototype training, and stakeholders' feedback. For the trends in potential rice yield in different rice growing zones, a study was conducted to improve the understanding on the temporal variations in rice growth and yield in different rice growing zones in Asia, Africa, and South America. The specific objectives are to assess the performance of ORIZA model in simulating potential rice yields, to analyze the effect of yield-defining factors such as soil irrigation, temperature, genotypes, and to determine the trends in potential rice yields. To address these objectives, data for rice phenology and yield of the Erie Rice Weather Yield Nursery trials were compiled. This data is for 10 rice entries and was conducted in 23 sites in Asia, Africa, and South America. It was conducted in 1983 to 1985. For yield exploration, long-term daily weather data was also compiled. And in simulation modeling, we did model evaluation and calibration and for yield exploration. This is the geographical distribution of the 23 sites under the AirWind project in 1983 to 85 in Asia, Africa, and South America. In these studies, weather parameters such as solar radiation, maximum and minimum temperature, dry bulb and wet bulb temperature, wind speed, and rainfall were observed. Horizon 2000 was used to simulate the yield using input weather data, the crop phenology observed from those experiments, and the crop parameters. This is the scatter diagram of measured yield and simulated yield for Suwon, which is a representative of the temperate rice growing areas, Kutak, Pingdong, and San Pato, representative for the subtemperate areas with warm to hot, humid summers and dry and cold winters. Los Baños for the monsoonal area and Ibadan for the equatorial area. In this graph, 1:1 line, reference line is shown, and the data points are close to the 1:1 line, or these are within the 20% root mean square error lines. Simulation of grain yield under potential condition in the 3 crop growing zones has a root mean square error of 14%, which is considered a good model fit. Using the long-term data, it was observed that solar radiation in Ibadan, which is in the equatorial area, and Suwon, which is in the temperate area, decreased over the years. Maximum temperature in Ibadan and also in Suwon increased, and minimum temperature in Los Baños and in Suwon also increased, with a decrease in solar radiation and increase in temperature. The rice growth of rice crop is expected to change. Increase in temperature increases the respiration, and a decrease in solar radiation decreases photosynthesis. So the net potential effect is a decrease in rice production. And this is the potential rice yield trends in Ibadan, Los Baños, and so on, where we simulated a decrease in potential rice production over the years. Based on the results, we say that the Horizon model adequately simulated the potential yield of different rice genotypes in different rice growing zones across the world, and potential yield in temperate, monsoonal, and equatorial areas decreased over the years. For rain-fed lowland rice, we conducted studies to determine the spatial and temporal variability of water status and nutrient availability in Southeast Asia. Also, we aim to analyze the effect of yield, not only the yield defining factor, but also the yield limiting factor, this is water and nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and also the effect of yield reducing factors such as the insects, pathogens, weeds on grain-fed rice yield. Experiments were conducted from 1995 to 2002 in Indonesia and Thailand. Indonesia has intensive rain-fed rice crop system. They go to a series of rain-fed rice crops in a year, while in Thailand, rain-fed rice yields are lower and they cultivate one rain-fed rice crop in a year. Thailand represents while Indonesia represents the rain-fed intensive rain-fed rice yield area, Thailand represents the area with low yields. In these experiments, the crop parameters, soil physical properties, field water and groundwater depths, as well as weather were observed. This is a photo of the experiment layout that was conducted in 1995 and in 1996. And another photo from 1997 to 2000 experiment. This shows Dr. Tu, who is leading the project, who has led the project. For the experiments from 1995 to 2000, rainfall for the 1995 and 1996 late wet season were below the normal. The 1997 rainfall for the early wet season in 1997 and 1998 were also below normal. There are 3 years with above normal rainfall and 2 years with normal rainfall. In 1996, when Japan has a little over 200 millimeter rainfall throughout the season, there was a severe drought. The panicles hardly emerged, and there was 80% yield loss due to drought. This was a picture of the experiment that was conducted during that period. And in 1997 to 98, early wet season, rainfall were below normal from 40 days after seeding up until harvest. So the water depth dropped to 100 centimeters below the surface during that period, and that affected the tillering as well as the reproductive stage of the crop. As a result, the measured grain yield in rain-fed treatments for all of the fertilizer fertilizer treatments were lower than that of irrigated rice. For irrigated rice, the measured grain yields for P omission plot, those with recommended fertilizer level and those with fertilizers above recommendation reached the potential level. We used the weather data, the crop and soil parameters, and simulated the rain-fed rice crop for the rain-fed and irrigated rice crop for rice yield for 3 fertilizer levels, and we compared this with the measured values. This is the scatter diagram of above ground biomass and grain yield. Root mean square error for grain yield is 16%, which is also considered a good model fit. The third experiment is conducted at different toposequence positions in Indonesia and in Thailand. In this toposequence positions, we observe the variability in water status and soil properties. These are the yield gaps due to water, NPK, and pest infestations in Japan weather station, Japan experiment station. During the season, the 1997-98 early wet season, when rainfall was below normal, there was a 20 to 23% yield reduction due to water. There was a 42% yield reduction due to nitrogen, 33 to 36% reduction due to potassium, and almost 60% reduction due to pests and diseases. Yield gap due to P to phosphorus is negligible. And in farmers' field, we estimated yield gap due to water from 11 to 52% when rainfall was below normal, and 35 to 63% due to nitrogen, and 12% yield loss due to pests. The yield gap varies in different toposequence positions and in different environments. Like in the potential production, the WeRise model adequately simulates the crop growth and rainfed and growth of lowland rice under water limited and nitrogen production situations in Southeast Asia. There were substantial differences in field hydrology, exchangeable K, organic C, clay content among toposequence positions, and in Indonesia, water and K deficiencies are limiting yields, and pest infestations reduce rainfed rice yields. Because of the decreasing trend in potential rice yield and the variability of rainfed rice yields, the IRRI Japan project embarked on a research on climate change adaptation in rainfed rice areas, the CCARA. This project has four themes. The first theme is on developing a seasonal weather forecast. This is being handled by Jamstec. Second theme is on developing rice varieties and working on promising rice lines. And this is being led by Dr. Ishimaru of the plant breeding PBGB in IRRI. Nutrient management is in theme 3. This is being led by Dr. Hayashi in CESD. And where we work on the development of an integrated decision support system in theme 4. In theme 4, we work on the weather, variety, nutrient, and water interactions in rainfed systems. So our objective is to develop the weather, rice, nutrient integrated decision support system, or WeRise. And at this stage, at the middle of the project, we aim to familiarize the potential stakeholders with the WeRise prototype and obtain feedback from potential users to ensure user friendliness of its features. Our approach is to build on and adapt existing databases and tools. We work on IRRI's Nutrient Manager and Horizon 2000, and Jamstec's Syntax F models. Syntax seasonal weather forecast from Syntax F is used as an input to the Horizon 2000 model. And the attainable yield simulated by the Horizon 2000 model is used as an input to the Nutrient Manager. Nutrient Manager gives a fertilizer recommendation for to attain that to reach that attainable yield. And since that as an input arrives sa 2000, where the fertilizer advisory for rainfed systems are developed. Putting this in the methodological framework, we use a combination of systems analysis and statistical analysis for experiments, real-time weather data, seasonal weather forecast, and biophysical and socioeconomic survey. Statistical analysis includes calculation of percentiles and incidence probabilities from real-time weather data, a statistical downscaling from seasonal weather forecast, and analysis of farmers' crop management from the biophysical and socioeconomic survey. The experiment data were used as an input to the Nutrient Manager and ORISA 2000 for parameterization and evaluation. Real-time weather data as well as seasonal weather forecast were used for the syntax F bias reduction process. And after the evaluation of Nutrient Manager, the fertilizer is used. Fertilizer recommendation is used as an input to ORISA 2000, and syntax, the fitted syntax data is also used as an input in addition to the real-time weather data in ORISA 2000. The syntax Nutrient Manager ORISA interface is evaluated using the real field data, and the evaluated interface is used for yield constraint analysis, risk management analysis, and scenario analysis. As an output, WeRise is composed of the statistical analysis and the systems analysis. WeRise gives a drought and flood advisory and fertilizer advisory to stakeholders based on the experiment data, real-time weather data, seasonal weather forecast, and the survey. Experiment materials on rice varieties and promising rice lines come from CCARA theme 2. These promising rice lines are characterized by heavy panicles, large grain type, and generally early maturing varieties. Series of field experiments in the greenhouse, and greenhouses were conducted using these different promising rice lines and rice varieties. Different fertilizer levels were also used under irrigated and rainfed conditions. In these experiments, we measured the crop characteristics, soil, chemical and physical properties, hydrology, and weather. This is a photo taken for the 2013 Walig Jerami season in the Indonesian Agricultural Environment Research Institute. This picture shows differences of fertilizer response and varietal response underwater and irrigated treatments. It also shows areas where we took the sequential samples, and this is at an early stage of the crop. This is an example of the grain yield that was measured in the experiment, where we see difference, the significant influence of the treatments. In these experiments, we measure not only the crop parameters, but we measure the groundwater depth as well as soil matrix potential. The groundwater depth is now being logged, and the soil matrix potential measurements are being logged and downloaded from the computers. The second set of data is on weather, and this shows the distribution of weather stations surrounding the CCARA research sites. These weather stations have standard meteorological instruments like that in agromet station, but in research areas where we don't have the standard meteorological instruments, automatic weather stations are installed. The automatic weather stations are calibrated, and the performance of the setup was evaluated. In addition to the real-time weather data from standard meteorological stations, we collaborate with Jamstep for the seasonal weather forecast. Forecasts are generated by huge computers, and this is a sample of output that is given. This forecast is transformed into an WeRise input file that is used for simulation. The third source of data is from the farm survey. In the farm survey, we asked the farmers on their risk management strategies. Farm surveys, in this, we use a key informant interview, focus group discussions, and household survey. The photo on the left side is a key informant interview with Dr. Hayashi, our project coordinator and CCARA Theme 3 leader, and Dr. Ishimaru, the theme leader the theme 2 leader. On the right side is one of the focus group discussions that were done in 3 districts in Pati, in Rembang, and in Boyolali districts in Indonesia. In each district, focus group discussions were done in 2 villages. And from the survey and from the historical weather records, rainfall in Boyolali was characterized as a high rainfall with almost 3,000 millimeters per annum, per year of rain. And the Pati and Rembang districts have 1,000 millimeter per year rain, which is considered medium. In Boyolali district, where rainfall is high, farmers use transplanting as method of crop establishment, and they do not use band management. But in area where rainfall is generally lower, farmers use direct seeding, and they maintain the bands to conserve water. In Boyolali, again with high rainfall, fertilizer is from medium to high, and in Pati and Rembang district where resources rainfall amount is lower, they apply low to medium fertilizer levels. Farmers in Boyolali choose variety that have low to medium rice yield, and low to high stress tolerance to biotic and abiotic stresses. In Pati and Rimbang districts where they have limited rainfall, they choose varieties that have high yield levels and high tolerance to biotic and abiotic stresses. This is an example of the farmers practicing of land preparation and crop establishment in Pati and Rimbang districts. When the farmers were asked what would they do if they receive a drought forecast for the coming season, farmers in Boyolali who used to transplant their rice would mention that they would consider dry seeding, direct seeding, and also they plan to maintain the bands, conserve water. They would also choose varieties that have high tolerance to abiotic stress. And in the three districts, they would use supplemental water if that is available, and they would reduce the farm inputs for fertilizer and pesticide. With the decreasing trend in potential rice production and the low and instability of rainfed rice yields, the IRRI Japan project is developing a weather rice nutrient integrated decision support system, or the WeRise. WeRise aims to improve the livelihood of rainfed rice farmers under current and future climatic scenarios. The system uses a seasonal weather forecast and provides crucial information such as the start and end of the rainy season, the rainfall distribution during the crop growing season. It also gives an advice to farmers when to sow and transplant their crop, what variety is appropriate, and how fertilizer and other inputs may be applied. For quick navigation, let me load this the WeRise system. And as an example, let me show you the weather data, for example, for 2011 in Indonesia. The first input of WeRise is on weather data, and 2011 weather data in Indonesia is characterized by late onset of rains. Rains normally come in October, but in 2011, rain has started at the end of October. Also, there were drought spells in late December and early March, late February the following year. The second set of output in WeRise is the simulated rain yield. choose the option for if you would like to explore the yield for different sowing date of IR64 with no fertilizer, then WeRise output. This graph will be shown. So this shows that this shows the grain yield for different sowing dates, and since rain started late, optimum sowing is start of November. Optimum sowing dates are start of November, start of December, and in January. So we have the graphical output and the tabular output for grain yield, as well as the optimum sowing date. If we would like to explore the effect of applying fertilizer, the recommended fertilizer level, then we come up with this graph. When there was no rain, there is no advantage of applying fertilizer. But then when after the start, for crops that are sown in November up until January, we would expect a 1 ton increase in applying the recommended fertilizer level. Also, if we would like to explore the effect of using other variety, such as YTH183, which is a promising rice line, then we come up with this graph, and relative advantage of using this line is shown. Recently, a training course on the use of WeRise prototype was conducted for researchers and extension officers in Laos and in Indonesia. All the participants were given were able to explore the system, and at the end of the training course, we asked for their assessment and their rating on the WeRise. The training, 43 participants from research and extension offices were there, and they majority of them rated the training course from good to excellent. And when they were asked whether they are confident to share the lessons learned from their training course, more than 80% of these participants positively answered that they could share the lessons. The participants or potential stakeholders, majority of them found that WeRise prototype is easy to use and easy to understand, and almost 50% found this system found the output of the system easy to explain. These participants prefer the pull-down menu, which we already have, and the combination of graphics and text in the output. For additional suggestions the participants to use specific terms such as the general fertilizer recommendation instead of large-scale recommendation that we used earlier. They proposed to include crop growth duration as an output and translate the WeRise website into their local language, provide users guide, help button, and they look forward to the release of the official version soon. In Indonesia, potential stakeholders would like to include other varieties and cover other sites. And also, they would like to include site-specific nutrient management, that's the PHSL, the cropping calendar, which is Katang, it's developed by IRE, and pest management. In Lao, they would like to see weather and yield graph in one page. All of these feedback and additional suggestions are being taken into account in improving the WeRise system. At this stage, we in the IRI Japan project are proud to say that the WeRise prototype was developed, and this was tested by potential users, and feedback of potential stakeholders were documented. We are working on the improvement of the input, output, and content of WeRise based on stakeholders' feedback, and explore possible collaboration with other groups to develop the WeRise link to the nutrient manager for site-specific nutrient management, and evaluate WeRise pilot testing of the released version is also planned. And we would like to thank our collaborators, the IRI, IAT in Indonesia, Jamstek and SEARCA in Japan, and NAFRI and ARC in Laos for their contribution in the development of the system. Also, we would like to thank other research groups in INI, NIAS, PAGASA, Department of Meteorology and Hydrology, Indonesian Agroclimatic and Hydrology Research Institute, and the BMAG. Unofficially, they are right now, the collaboration with them are being processed, and we thank all of the collaborators and many of our colleagues who helped us develop the system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Boling. At this point, we'd like to open the floor for any clarifications or inquiries regarding Dr. Boling's presentation.
Thank you so much. Who were the trainees with whom you tested WeRise? who were the trainings with whom you tested WeRise? Are they farmers or extensionists, researchers?
The trainees, the training was designed for researchers and extension officers. Researchers come from different research institutes, also from universities in different provinces in Laos, and also in different provinces in Indonesia. So they were identified by their local by NAFRI in Laos and by the Ministry of Agriculture in Indonesia, in collaboration with the IRI Bogor office and IRI Vientiane office.
So is this ready for use?
The IP, we're working on the IP clearance, and we're also improving, or we are working on the revisions to improve the system based on the stakeholders' feedback.
So practically, how long, how many years of work to come up with?
We work on existing databases and tools. The project started in 2010, but then the actual work and planning really started in 2011. Well, there was a proposal in 20. There was the proposal was approved, and the project started to implement the project in 2010. But there were the theme leaders. For example, the theme leader in theme 1 started in October 2010. I joined the project in March 2011, so we have almost 2 years, a little more than 2 years, almost 3 years working on the system.
Once the tool is finished, would it be available to the public for use?
Yes, it's we produce public goods, so it's and the tool was designed really to help improve the livelihood of the rainfed rice farmers. So extension officers and researchers are welcome to. They will help. I hope you could help us reach the end users of the system. And
Are there other clarifications regarding the presentation?
So I suppose having the databases and access to them is really an important input to this work, right?
yes, it is.
I mean, it wouldn't be possible if there was no data.
Yes, and we really would like to thank the scientists who earlier compiled all this data together for the project use. Also, we really would like to thank the meteorological systems for making available for sharing their data, and our NARIS partners in helping to put together this data.
But then, I'm still
But then you have data from Lao, PDR from Indonesia, and is there a third one or just the two?
Philippines. Actually, we're conducting field experiments.
So would that mean that the decision support, the simulations that would be generated applicable only to those locations or sites, or can you explain how that could be used, or if they are useful in general, for instance, in this kind of environment, I suppose Southeast Asia?
We work in the CCARA project. We start with benchmark sites, but then we're using an eco-physiological model that could be adapted for use in different places. For example, the WeRise 2000 was found to simulate the yield, the potential rice yield in different rice growing zones in a temperate area, subtropical area with warm to hot weather, hot summers, the monsoonal area, as well as in the equatorial zone. We start in CCARA project, we are starting from a benchmark site in Laos and Indonesia where we see huge potential for growth. But then the system could work in other areas, is supposed to work on other areas, or it's designed to work, is applicable to other areas.
There's another clarification.
Ma'am, with regards to the recommendation that the model will provide, so we've seen the adjustment in the sowing dates,
Yes.
right? Aside from that, ma'am, what other recommendations will the DSS provide farmers?
It shows a fertilizer advisory, so it gives when to apply the fertilizer. So there's another so below the seasonal weather forecast summary, there's a fertilizer advisory, and that's specific to a sowing date. Can I show that to you briefly? Are there more questions? Otherwise, I would like to show that that part. Yes. For example, in Jacanan for 2011 IR 64 with general recommended. So here we have a summary of the forecast, the optimum sowing dates, and a fertilizer advisory specific for the sowing date. Suppose we select November 1 as the sowing date, then basal fertilizer application may be applied from November 1 to 20, and top dressing may be applied in December, and another split in January. We also are in the process of developing, as I mentioned, the site-specific nutrient recommendation based on the nutrient manager.
And ma'am, with regards to the weather data, because what you've shown us on or like previous years of data, right? So will that be like if I'm a farmer and I will plan for this 2013 and you will use forecast, is the link of the tool WeRise, does it have a direct link with the weather, like for the Philippines directly with Pag-asa, so that the farmer doesn't need to answer the forecast? Or is it automatic na lang?
There is a choice. One of the inputs, one of the so better. Of the input is for a weather forecast. So, for example, we would like to see the rainfall. The automated link to the weather forecast in Jamstack is still being developed. But for as an example, we'll use the 2012 data, which was released which is released. So they have we will have an automatic link to the weather forecast, and we would be able to simulate the attainable yield for the forecast weather scenario. I think two sets of forecasts were released so far, and they're working. Our collaborators are working more on that forecast. Hopefully, the auto link to the forecast will be established in the next few months in Erie. So I hope that would we could give you an answer, a more example in the next few months of an updated forecast in the next few months.
Dr. Boling, is it okay if those interested in the audience to communicate with you, is it okay if they get your email address?
Yes, we would be happy. The Erie Japan project would be happy to help and to provide the information that you need regarding the project.
We have room for one last clarification or inquiry. Okay, so if there's none, let's all give Dr. Boling another round of applause. Thank you very much for that very interesting presentation. At this point, may we call on the program head of the Knowledge Management Department of SEARCA
To give CERCA's tokens of appreciation for Dr. Boling.